Thank you for joining Moderna Civil 3D and IDAS webinar on best practice for water and wastewater reticulation. My name is Saloni Fourie. I'm a civil infrastructure accounts manager. Presenting today will be Anru Himad. Anru is one of our applications engineer and part of our Moderna infrastructure team. Please, all your questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. If you can please direct all your questions to the Q&A box. This webinar will be recorded and will be emailed through to you shortly after the webinar. If you have missed any of our previous webinars, you are welcome to visit our Moderna YouTube channel. For any other queries, you're welcome to email or contact me. My details will be in the chat box. Andrew, over to you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. So today I'm going to be doing an overview of the best practices that you can follow while modeling water and wastewater reticulation systems using IDAS and Civil 3D. Okay, so first off, what I have here on the screen is a basic layout of a town. So we have some roads, we have some cadastral information, we have a position from where we are going to feed the system, which is going to be a pressurized system, and we also have some indications of where we are going to do house connections. I'm not going to go over house connections in this session. We do have other videos covering those topics on our YouTube channel. Okay, so first off, there are a few different ways in which you can model your water reticulation pipe networks. The most simple one that I'm going to be going through is actually just by using a polyline. You can use a polyline, you can use an alignment, and you can even just draw out the pipe network without any of those. Now, to actually create this network by use of a polyline, which is a lot simpler to manage and edit, I have a layer that I have created here called ACAD Water Reticulation PL, so that the polylines are just on their own layer. So I'm just going to go and set that layer as active. Okay, it is on color 140, and I just made it a little bit thicker. Okay, so let's start by drawing out our network. Now, do note that the best practice for this would be to draw this network in the flow direction. If you do draw this polyline in the opposite direction, it will swap or reverse the flow direction of your pipes. So I'm just going to launch the polyline command. I'm going to start here from our reservoir or tank position. I'm just going to take it over here, and I'm just going to start drawing out this network. So I'm just going to do the main branch for now, and then I'll show you how to add branches afterwards. So let's draw it out like this. So I'm just placing these nodes in between the cadastral boundaries as well as the road reserve, the tow lines. This fairly rudimentary. We can always just move the points afterwards when we are done. So this is going to be my main branch. All right, so I'm going to add some additional branches after this as well. Now, if you want to convert this line into a pipe network, all you need to do is just simply go to your Home tab, create Design Panel, and the Pipe Network drop-down. We can then say Create Pipe Network from Objects. You can then select this polyline. Now then, what it does is it prompts you whether you want this direction, whether this direction is fine, or whether you can reverse it. So even if you accidentally drew it in the opposite direction, if you use this method, you can still swap the direction around by clicking on reverse. Okay, so I am happy with the way that I've actually drawn it here, and then I'm going to hit OK. I hit Enter. Now it's going to prompt me for my network name, so I'm going to call this water. Now, do note that I am using a template, a custom template that was set up by Devotech. So this does already contain all of our custom or rather all of our pipe standards, all of our parts lists and so forth. So I'm going to select my water parts list here, the pipe that I'm going to create. Just wait for it to respond quickly, load up that parts list. Okay. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. I have an idea of what I want to use, and that is going to be my Aquaflow HDPE PE100 PN10. So I'm going to use 160 millimeters just as a base to work off of. I'm going to, rather than selecting null structures or manholes and such, I'm going to select a junction. Now, a junction is a basic, very basic representation of a bend. All right, so we are going to use that. And the reference surface that I'm going to use is going to be final surface. So my elevations of my pipes are basically going to be placed just in relation to that surface. We don't have any vertical design on it yet. This just gives you a ballpark to work with. Okay, now what it asks here is whether you want to erase the existing entity, which refers to that polyline. Now, just because of the fact that I might want to, delete the pipe network and recreate it, I'm not going to erase this existing entity. Also, when you select use vertex elevations, and you then select whether that vertex should represent the outside top, the crown, the center line, invert, or outside bottom, this is going to basically take the vertex elevations of your polyline. Now, when you draw a polyline and you do not snap to anything, it automatically draws it at an elevation of 0, which we do not necessarily want, because then our profile views are going to be massive when we do create an alignment for this pipe network. All right, so I'm not going to use the vertex elevations. I'm happy with it just placing it within a ballpark estimate of what our surface is. I'm then going to hit OK. And that will automatically create my entire network along the pipe network, along the polyline. It also places my junction structures on those vertices. Do note that it does call it MH. That is the standard naming procedure for Civil 3D. So you can just rename these structures afterwards, which I will show. We'll just show the best possible way to do that. Okay, now I'm actually quite happy with the way in which I've got this first network over here, or this first branch. But what I want to do now is I don't necessarily want to have this polyline showing here. So the reason why I put it on its own layer is so that I can simply go to my layer properties. And I can then just freeze this layer. It does say that you cannot freeze it because it is the current layer. The only thing that you need to then do is double click on this blue box on, for example, layer 0 or any other layer, and that will make that layer your current. I'm then just going to freeze my polyline layer. There you go. So you can always just unfreeze that layer, and you can, if you really want to redesign the pipe network or recreate it, you can just delete your pipe network by going to your tool space, prospector tab, to pipe networks, and then you can select your network, right click, and delete it from here. All right. So that is just the easiest way to basically redesign. So then you can just adjust your polyline. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter, whatever edits you want to do to it, and then you can just recreate your polyline without having to redraw the entire thing. Or recreate your pipe network without having to redraw the entire polyline. Now, what I want to do here is I want to say, okay, I want to be able to vertically design this, this pipe network. Now, I don't have any branches on here yet. We will get to those. Okay, I'll show at least 1 or 2 of those. Now, what if you want to see exactly how this pipe network was created? Because sure, you can select a pipe and you can go and look at the elevations. Now, you can see that it didn't place it at 0. It placed it at around 1,465 meters, which is a ballpark within a margin of our surface elevation. Okay, so I want to go and create a profile view for this pipe network. So I'm going to go to alignment, because a profile view is always connected to an alignment. I'm going to select my alignment dropdown, and I'm going to click on create alignment from network parts. There we go. Create alignment from network parts. It then prompts you to select your first structure. So do note that you have to look at your flow direction. So my first structure, my water source is down here. I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to select the last point on this network. That selects all the pipes and structures in between. Then simply hit enter. I am going to change the name for this a bit. So I'm going to call this water branch, and then next counter will be, for example, 1, branch 2, branch 3, branch 4, and so forth. The type we can keep as miscellaneous. It doesn't really have anything to do with center lines or rails or anything like that, so we can keep it as miscellaneous. And then in my template, I have a style that was set up for my pipe network. So just note that you do need, if your template allows for it, just make sure that you select the correct alignment style. So I have pipe network, and for alignments for pipes, we don't necessarily need to display any labels on the alignment. We don't need to see changes and so forth, because these objects are going to get setting out data eventually. Now I do want to create a profile view, a profile and profile view. I'm going to select OK. I want to add my final surface to my profile view. As you can see, you can select which alignment you want to add that surface to. And then I'm going to click draw in profile view. Here's just where you set up your styles for your profile view. So I'm fine with the name. Let's say profile view branch, and then branch 1 or branch 2 and so forth. My style, I do have a style for water. There we go. So levels at structure. And then my station range is fine. Profile view height is fine. My display options is fine. Type pressure networks, this just shows you exactly which parts are inside of are going to be displayed in your profile view. So you can untick whatever you don't want to see there. Data bands, I do have one that matches my profile view. It was set up to work in conjunction with it. There we go. Pipe water levels and structure, band set 1. This shows you your reference, your distance at your structure, your ground levels at your structure, pipe invert level, slope and length, and so forth. And then go to create profile view. I'm just going to put it down here. And there you can see that you have a profile view now showing the names of your structures, the distance, the ground level, the invert level, and so forth. Also the slope of your pipes. Okay. And also it does display your fittings, but we do need to go set up some parameters for that. That is not going to be covered in this webinar. We did go through some of it in some of our other YouTube videos. Okay, now what if you want to, for example, control the invert depth? Now, when using Civil 3D as is, it is a little bit more of a manual process because you can select your pipes and you can go and move them up or down from here. Okay, and then you can simply check whether your cover is sufficient. All right, so you can even draw a line with your cover amount and you can just snap to that line. And you can go and edit the inverts for all of your pipes. Okay, so when you select, for example, where 2 pipes join and you move it down, you will need to also move the other pipe down to match it. Okay, this does not disconnect your pipes from each other whatsoever. Okay, now, what if you want to, for example, add an additional branch? Okay, so let's say we want to be able to provide water to these units up here as well. Okay, so we want to be able to draw a little branch in here as well. Now, the best way to go about this is actually to go to your tool space, to your networks. You can simply select water, your pipe network here. Okay, you can right click and you can go to edit network. Just takes a little while to load up. There we go. Now with the network layout tools, it basically adds onto your existing pipe network that we have drawn out now. Now to keep with the format that we've been doing it in so far, we are going to use, for our structures, we're going to use a junction. And for our pipes, I'm just going to scroll back down to our aquaflow, this one here, just to match, I think it was 160, just to match what we've done in the rest of the network. You can select smaller sizes, seeing that it's a smaller area that it has to service, but yeah, that all comes with analysis. Okay, so what do we want to draw? We want to draw only pipes? Do we want to draw only structures? Well, we actually want to draw both. Okay, so we're going to select pipes and structures. And I'm now going to go and add this network in here. Now you can, for example, go and draw it from this point and try and connect it inwards. But that would actually be a bit counterintuitive. You would be doing it the wrong way around. Because this network is feeding from the tank up here all the way around. Okay, so we need to have it branch from this point and feed water outwards towards these residential units. Now, when you do hover with your mouse with this pipes and structures selected, when you do hover over a structure, you will see that it shows a little crosshair with a circle. That means that it is going to join the new pipes that you draw now. It is going to join it to that structure. When you hover over a pipe, you will see that it is those lines with the little squares with the space in between. That means that it's going to create a new structure. It's going to basically split this pipe and create a new structure there and then branch out from that position. Now I'm just going to have it basically go into this structure over here. Now I'm going to click on it and then draw my network out from this point. Okay. And then hit escape once you are done. Now I can then feed, create house connections later on towards these units. All right, so once you're done and you're happy with all of your branches that you've now drawn out, you can simply close the network layout tool. Now, what if we, for example, want to go and rename our pipes and structures? Okay, so I've actually got an alignment here. I just want to switch the display of that alignment off as well so that it's easier to only select my pipes. So I'm going to click Layer Properties, and I'm going to go to my Alignment C3D layer and switch that off. That is the automatic layer on which all alignments are created. Simply switch that off, and then it is much simpler to work with only your pipes and structures. Okay, it also looks a little bit cleaner. You don't need to see an alignment for you to be able to edit your pipe network whatsoever. If you do want to update, or if you do want to move certain nodes, you will just have to switch your alignment back on and simply snap your alignment into that new position. Then your profile view will be fixed. Okay, now what if we, for example, want to go and swap a few structures? Now we have endpoints here. Okay, we have an endpoint to our network over here, and we have an endpoint to our network over here. Now we would need to add end caps to that. Now there's actually, I believe the easiest way to do that would be to physically select the part, and then you can go to swap part and simply right click after you've selected the endpoint. You can right click and you can go to swap part. When I click on that, it is going to prompt me what I need to swap it to. I can already see there's my end cap. So I can go and select my end cap and simply swap that to my end cap. All right, what happens if we, I'm just going to undo, what happens if we want to swap multiple points? So I'm selecting both of these end nodes. I'm going to right click. There you see. You cannot swap multiple parts like this. Okay, so unfortunately you would need to go and do these one by one. So I'm going to swap part and go select end cap and click OK. This looks a little bit weird, so I'm just going to rotate it correctly so that we have a nice visual display of what is going on. The square grip allows you to move the end cap. The circular grip allows you to rotate. I'm just going to place this rotation in between the two pipes and then it looks a lot better. Okay, let me do the same with this one. Swap part to an end cap. At least it is a very quick function. All right. Now, just for the sake of this example, I'm going to leave these as junctions. If you do have a parts list that you can specify certain bends, then you are more than welcome to switch these out to their specified bend sizes, okay? Or the bends, the amount of degrees to which they bend to. Okay, so next up, what if we, for example, want to, add a structure? Let's say, for example, we need a fire hydrant here. Okay. Now, this is actually where we are going to go back to our edit network. So I'm going to go to my tool space. I'm going to select water reticulation, right click and go to edit network. Okay, what do I want to add? I want to add a fire hydrant. So let's go look for one. Fire hydrant, I might just miss it. Oh, there we go. So fire hydrant, and we do have some woodlands type fire hydrants here. I'm just going to select a generic fire hydrant for this example. And now what you need to know is that you don't want to draw pipes and structures. You only want to draw structure. Okay, so structures only. And you can then go and you can hover over wherever you want to have your fire hydrant. I want to put one over here somewhere. So let's say, for example, we're on the property boundary or in line with it. No, I don't, because there's going to be house connection going over from there. So we just need to plan according to where our property entrances are going to be. So I'm just going to place it over here somewhere. Okay. There we go. Now, you will see that when you hover over these objects, you do have a little bit of a masking. Okay, so you can't really see what that structure basically displays. It's just a big gray dot. Now, I'm going to close my network layout tools. To actually be able to see the text inside of there, we would need to go and switch off a layer. All right, so let's go to our layer properties. Now this will be under, let's see, it was under water. So Civil 3D filters excluding XREF. So these are filtered layers. This would be under water. I believe it is masking. There we go. Masking in plan and masking in profile. So you can switch both off from here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to freeze these two layers. And then we'll see that now you can now see exactly what your fire hydrant was supposed to display. All right. Next up is actually how we can manipulate the naming of these pipes. So anyone that has worked with Civil 3D might have encountered this confusion in the past. For example, when you split a pipe, you'll see this one is pipe 36. I did have pipe networks earlier in my model, so it actually names them sequentially from there on. Okay. So when I created my first pipe, it actually named it 34. That's because I had 33 additional pipes earlier on in my model. I just deleted them. Okay, but this one is, for example, 36, and this one is 36, and then in brackets 1. What if we want to change our pipe names? Okay, so it's actually quite simple. Now, what we would need to do is you can actually go and investigate what your names look like over here. You can filter them and so forth. All right, but AutoCAD, if I can just get rid of this zoom bar at the top here on my screen. If you go to pipes and you go to utilities, that is if you have your toolbar at the top switched on. So pipes and utilities, you can go to rename network parts. So I'm going to select that, rename network parts. And I'm going to then select the first network part to be renamed. So let's say, for example, I want to rename the entire branch. Then afterwards, I want to rename the second branch. So I'm going to select the first branch, or the first object in branch 1, and then the last object in branch 1. So it selects everything in between in that order. Then hit enter. Now, what do we want to rename? So you can rename structures on their own, you can rename pipes on their own, or you can rename both of them at the same time. So what if I want to rename the structures? Now, I have majority junctions in my drawing, so I'm just going to call this the structures J for junction, and then 1 point. So it's going to be, for example, junction branch 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and so forth. The starting number is going to be 1, and then the pipe name template. So I'm going to call this pipe or P dash 1 point. So this 1 point indicates the branch that I'm busy with. Branch 2 would be P dash 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, and so forth. I'm going to call this, or make the starting number 1. And I want to rename the existing parts even though there is a name conflict. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And that now renamed our pipes. But what if you actually want to see those in plan? That's quite simple. We just need to add labels to our pipes. All right, so I'm going to go back to my pipes tool on my toolbar here, and I'm going to go to add pipe network labels, and then add pipe network labels. You can also just access that from pipe network. So pipe network labels. I want to do the entire, okay, that's pipe network. I want to do the entire networking plan. I want to give my pipes a style where I display their name, just so that I can see whether they